we heard a little bit about the changes in technology and the waves and the third wave, right? We talked a lot about the changing workforce and how that's maybe making things possible or even mandatory as we move forward. And I would say, we're not done. I mean, clearly we're on a journey, but we're not done. And I think this third wave idea is kind of starting now, but is a place that we can build from. And the third wave to me and the third wave to Looker is not about doing the same thing again. It's not about just creating the first wave over or creating a bunch of piece parts for people. It's really about creating something that you can build on top of and go further, right? To start to break the chains, right? Solve the problems of access and reliability. And as you solve those base needs, like the base needs of hunger or whatever, shelter, like then you can start to move up the value chain more. You can start to provide even more to people in your organizations. And I would say like BI, business intelligence, is the beachhead. It was the entry point, right? So around this idea of business intelligence, we drive the first project. We get users interested in data. We start to provide the solutions to access and reliability. We really solve this general need of data in an organization, and that's really important. Like that's the entry point, that's the beachhead. But I think we have to look at where we go further. And if you think about in the third wave, we're solving kind of this idea of reliability at the base layer next to the database. We're really solving reliability in a new way. But then we're providing access through a business intelligence application on top of that. That's really important, right? So we have this thing that we've built, and then we provide access to it through a business intelligence tool. And what's interesting in the third wave is that as you build that thing underneath, you're building a platform on which to go from, right? You're building a common rail, you're building a foundation, right? And what you're putting on top of it first is often something that looks like business intelligence, but what you can put on it in the future is getting really interesting. And what some of you are putting on it in the future is really interesting. So if you think about Looker, right? Looker from day one has been about being the platform for data, about not just being a point solution, not just being one of the things, not just being a visualization tool, right? Not just being a data prep tool, but really providing this new platform on which to create things. So if it's not just a BI solution, then what is it? When we're building Looker, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about building a solution for solutions, right? We're thinking about building something, a platform on which you can create things. And that's a different design point. That really is a different design point from where we build from in our engineering teams. And if you think about it, in the world of like more generalized business intelligence, it's about creating a solution to one specific problem often. So I have a problem of how we're looking at, I'll use the sales pipeline analogy again, how we look at sales pipeline. So I piece together a bunch of components, and I create some data pipeline, and I create a lot of infrastructure and architecture, and then I provide that to a set of users. But when I have another project, I'm largely recreating that structure every time, right? I'm putting these things together every time. I'm building the foundation, I'm putting something on top of the foundation, and I'm plumbing stuff together. The concept of a platform is different. The concept of a platform is you build that common rail. You build that common rail where you start addressing these issues of access and reliability, right? And then on top of that, as the question changed and as the business problem shifts, I'm just building new things on top much more quickly. Because each time I'm connecting to that common rail, I'm connecting to that common thing underneath. And that becomes a lot more agile when we're creating these new solutions. So some of you are saying like, yep, yet another platform. Everybody's talking about Flywire. Remember, this is something that we've been building since day one. This was the vision of Looker. And if you think about the idea of a platform, it really is a different approach. And what's inside it becomes very different, right? So if you look at the core components of what's needed to be a platform for data, it's really three really substantial things. So the first is, rather than build a bunch of piece parts, You have to try to solve all the common services needed for data in one world, right? So we have to have services to do the equivalent of data prep, to integrate data sources together, to provide governance, a security layer, an access layer, right? We have to provide all those things to you, but not do it as a monolith. Do it in a more modern architecture where these are services, including things like visualization, right? So we have to have all of these components, which is what we've built to support the business intelligence tool, which is the critical tool that we all use today. But then rather than just build those as a monolith, right, we have to build a whole pillar of extensibility, which is where we've been developing since day one. So this included like the language, right? LookML and the ability to extend LookML. It was ideas around how we would develop this stuff with the integration of Git, so we have teams developing things together. Those were things that like traditional BI was not doing, right? This was a much more modern approach, right? So we had this idea where we had these components to extend, and then we said everybody was consuming this stuff not just within our user interface, but within other things. So we wanted to have not just some API coverage, but we wanted to have more API coverage, in the product than what was in the UI that we offered, right? So 110% API coverage. So that really became the extensibility layer. And in the world of SaaS and cloud, it's not about just giving everyone a box of parts and saying, you figure it out. Like, that's not acceptable. Our time to value has to be much, much faster. So what we knew we had to build was we had to build the business intelligence tool on top. So we built, first and foremost, the business intelligence application. We will continue to invest in that and make that better. That is a core thing. That is a needed thing, right? So we have the business intelligence application. But then we also have all the services to do powered by Looker and embed Looker in other products. And as you saw us talk about last year and now deliver through this year, we've built our own reference applications, digital marketing, web analytics, those kinds of things. And we've seen you all build those applications as well, really all built on a foundation of something that we launched a few years ago called Looker Blocks, these reusable components. Right? So we know we have to bring you to value more quickly. We have to build these applications. We have to support you building these applications. We have to ensure that it's not just a box of parts, but it is a place that you can get from a value perspective really, really quickly. So if you think about the platform, back to the wave analogy and Looker and the branding this year, think of it as like, we have data that is a sea, right? It's the ocean, and it's very rough, right? It's a rough surface. There's a lot of confusion down there. There's a lot of data, a lot of mixed up information, right? And what Looker has provided and is trying to provide more in the future is a common surface, right? A smooth surface. A smooth surface to all this confusion so that I can plug other things into it more easily. So at first, it's the business intelligence tool, right? The business intelligence application. And then it's the other things, right? But as you have new things that you want to build or new solutions that you need to provide for your users, right? These new hungry workers, you have a common surface on which to do that. And as you've been building the BI solution and deploying the BI solution, what you've been doing is creating this common smooth surface. And that is really where the opportunity is. That's where I think we break the chains and we start offering more things for our users that are even more compelling, that we start solving business problems that are more difficult. That really is the thing. And if you think about it, what should make me and Looker most happy is this idea that in 3 to 5 years, you will build things, and we'll give you the infrastructure to build things that we have no idea what you're going to be building today. Like, you're going to surprise us. And that's been the path all along. I can remember 5 years ago, we had a great customer who said, I'm going to power my dynamic pricing engine with Looker. And we're like, what? That seems hard. But no, they just did it. It was actually a pretty easy thing for them to do. And ever since then, we've seen that repeatedly. We've seen people solve these basic needs, access, reliability, and then move farther, right? Move this into other systems. And that's been really exciting.